I'm going to share with you this morning what was given to me, what I have come to understand about who, what, and whose I am. And I am, I think my purpose, one of my purposes in this lifetime, in this journey that I'm on here in this dense place called our dimension, Earth, world. I think one of my mission, probably my main purpose is to remember, first of all, who I am, whose I am, and what I am, whose I am, and to share that and in sharing it. And God gives me all kind of ways and opportunities to do that. I can walk the walk, I can talk the talk, I can demonstrate it, I can continue to dream it, I can hide it under a bush, whatever, but my thing is I want to tell it. And I appreciate this past week and the experiences that I've had over the past few weeks have really pushed home, pushed down as deep and rooted into me exactly who, what, and whose I am, and helped me understand my purpose. So the question that we're going to be exploring, asking ourselves and attempting to answer is something I'm going to be sharing the answers that I received over this. It's particularly over this past week. So it's going to be, I'm going to probably be referring to my notes quite a bit because so much and it was so fast, but I'm going to hopefully be relying on source and the spirit in me to, to bring to my memory and to my mind what is important to share with you this morning in regards to that question. Are you one with God? Again, my purpose in this life, I believe, is to remind us, remember myself, who, what, and whose we are. So I want to ask you, first of all, to contemplate the question, are you one with God? But and thinking about that, I want you to think about this. I want to ask this. When you hear or you speak or you say the word God or the word Jehovah, the word Lord, and the word Jesus, or even the word Christ, what are you thinking? Do you think of something or someone other than you? Is this is somebody, something, or this something or someone that you think about? Is this person is so far above and just out there and distant from you, separated from you, that you see it? That's what you see. I mean, is that what you think? And that's what you're thinking when you see God, or hear the word, or say the word, or the word Jesus, or Christ, or Lord, or Father, and I'm talking about Heavenly Father. Now we can talk about our Father, earthly fathers, and some of us can pick up the phone and call them. Some of us can get in the car and go see them. Some of us can remember that physical. But I'm talking about the Heavenly Father. What is it that you think? What are you thinking? Something separate from yourself? Well, I want to challenge you this morning, and I'm hoping I can share something with you this morning that will put a pause on that. When you hear the word God, or you hear it, or you speak it, or you're saying it, or you're talking to it. I want you to change your perspective of it. I want you to open your minds. First of all, I want you to have an open mind. You're conscious, and if you're one of us, if you're conscious and aware and awake, you have an open mind. But I want you to open your heart, and I want you to open and allow that spirit in you to nudge you and remind you and be the ears, be your hearing in today's message, because it's gonna be kind of out there. Gonna be kind of out there, but not too far out there that I'm gonna be speaking in English. You'll get it. You'll get me. But I want you to change your perspective a little bit today. I want to challenge your perspective of what you think, what you feel, and how you perceive when you hear and say the words God and Father and Jesus and Christ, Lord, Source. You to think about those things and those names and those labels. And what I want you to think about them in the same thought of our affirmation this morning. Have I not said that you are God's. That's it's in the law. It's in the book. It's in the Bible. It's in the sacred scriptures. And it's probably in the sacred scriptures of every religion or every faith there is in some form or another. Those words, yeah, the Indians and the sun worship, all those, they have these same words written in their sacred scriptures and their sacred laws. Have I not told you that you're God's? God's speaking to them, to us, to you, to me. Have I not said that? I challenge you again. You know, you can listen to all the wise teachers and preachers and commentators and, you know, whatever they want to call themselves. You can listen to them all day long and you can hear, but you're hearing what men say, what man say, what this world says about God and you and me and us. But you want to go to the source. You want to go to the book. You want to go to he who declares it and see what God says about it. So I'm sharing with you this morning what has been revealed to me, what's unfolding in my life and in my understanding and in my heart about God and Father and Jesus and the Christ, who he is and what he is to us. So this morning I want to show you that God and the eye of man, and I'm not talking about the eye that I'm looking at or looking through to see you. I'm talking about that possessive noun I. When I refer to Jean, when I refer to Jean, I'm talking to you, I don't say Jean said. I usually say I. So I'm talking about that eye, the eye of man. I want to show you what God has revealed to me about who God is and who I am and how so connected and so one and so the same that we are. And this, again, it's not something that I'm saying all, you know, it's not Jean speak. This is what God said. And it is in the scriptures. Gotta say that. I am. We use that absolutely or I whenever we're referring or announcing ourselves or our situation or what we have or what we're doing or what we are. We always say I. Well, that same I am, is the name that God gave himself way back again in the book, Moses, when he was talking to the burning bush and he was trying to figure out how he was going to go to Egypt and talk to this king called Pharaoh, and let him know what a terrible person he is and terrible situation that's going on. And he's got to let my people, let the people go. Let these people go. So he asked God, he says, well, you know, Moses, if you, a little bit about him, he had a stutter and he didn't talk very plain and he didn't, you know, didn't have a lot of confidence in himself, kind of like me and you, all of us. But he asked God, he was standing there and watching that bush burn, and he was recognizing that he was in the presence of the Almighty himself. And he said, well, you know, I've got to go to Pharaoh and I've got to tell Pharaoh, you know, to let your people go, let these Hebrew people go. But you know, who do I say? Who do I say that sent me and told me to say this? And I believe, I wasn't there, but I read the book several times and I read the story many times. And I believe that God thundered down on Moses and he says, tell them that I am sent you. And Moses was probably trembling, like, okay, I am. Yeah, I am that I am. Say that to Pharaoh. I am sent you to tell you to let my people go. No, the story went, he went to Pharaoh, he did his thing and worked a few miracles. Pharaoh got it, you know, humbled, and he let the people go. That was the story of Moses. So God gave Moses his name to present, to use, to go to the lion's den, to the furnace, I don't know, to the king, and demand that he do a thing. And it happened. It happened. God knew when he told told Moses to do what he do, just to say what he said and do what he did. He knew what he was going to do with Pharaoh, because he already knew Pharaoh. We're, the story goes that he had already hardened Pharaoh's heart for some reason or another. And again, you can read the story. It's kind of an interesting story. It's a very revealing story about the powers of I am that I am. That name that we were given, we are given permission to use. Instead of Gene, I can say I am. And when I say that, I am that I am. I am just as powerful, just as wise as the one who gave me the authority to use it. I am. All right, I'm gonna go. I want to speak forward a little bit. I want to move to the New Testament in the Bible, and I want to go to John. We're talking about John this morning, John chapter 10, where Jesus is speaking to the skeptics. Well, in that same book of John, before he met those skeptics, he was hanging out with his disciples, and he was quizzing them. Jesus kind of reminds me of parents, my mom and my grandmother, how they always use everything in our lives as a teachable moment. Well, Jesus was quizzing his disciples about what people talk about. What are they talking about when they talk about the Son of Man? And so Jesus asked them, he asked his disciples, he says, what do people say? What do men say that the Son of Man, what do they say? Who do they say that the Son of Man is? What do they say when they're talking about the Son of Man? Those are the words he used. He used the Son of Man. I'm going to point that out. You won't read in there where he said, what do they say about me? What do they call me? He said, what do they say the Son of Man is? Well, the disciples being, I don't know, trying to impress Jesus, I guess, at the same time, and trying to, not seem like they didn't know what they were talking about. And they're pretty good followers. And I'm getting it, man. I know what you're talking about. They had no clue what Jesus was talking about half the time. But anyway, the one disciple said, well, I hear people that call the Son of Man, they say John the Baptist. Or some say, I don't know, Elijah. Or some say Jeremiah or some other prophet, that's what they say. That's what they say. Jesus, okay. And then there was one disciple who, I don't know, he was kind of I called him a slumber. He kind of slumbered around, sleepyhead. But Jesus called him a rock. Jesus called Peter a rock. Peter, also known as Simon. Simon said, thou art the Son of the living God. Thou art the Son of the living God. That's what Peter said. And I feel like, I wasn't there, but I just can imagine Jesus going, what? What did you say? Peter probably repeated it again. Thou art the Son of the living God, the Father who is in heaven, King of heaven. Thou art the Son of God, the living God, Father in heaven. And Jesus said to him, he said, flesh and blood and bones did not reveal that to you. It had to be my Father in heaven who revealed it to you. Now, again, Jesus didn't say, who do people say I am? He said, who does people say the Son of Man is? So Peter answered the question. The others answered what people called Jesus, I guess. Well, he must be the return of all these prophets or whatever. It wasn't what Jesus asked. But Peter didn't know it through what men said. The teachers, the scribes, those skeptics of the day. He got it from the Most High, that God piece of him, that God part of him that resides on the inside of him that gives him the life that he has. And again, I'm going to say this and take it for what it's worth. Half the time, when you're reading the Bible and you're looking at it, and you're listening to, you're reading those red letters where Jesus is speaking. Half the time, when you really think about it, they didn't really make any sense. And half the things that, we were talking about doing was like, how am I going to do that? I can't do that. That's impossible. I'm just flesh and blood. Jesus was he was bringing awareness and bringing remembrance to that spirit in you, in the people, in us. He was waking up that spirit in us to remember from whence we came. Remember who we came from, where we came from. The people in this world that we live in, this is their domain. This is where they reside. This is where they get their wisdom and their smarts from. They go to the universities, they get the degrees, they get the education, they get the world experience. But if you want to know what God says about you, you got to be like Peter. You got to confer with somebody other than flesh and blood. If you want to know who you really are, you can't ask me. You can't go to the I don't know, the universities or to the churches and the synagogues and all those people that sit up in there and wear the robes and the collars and have the degrees and can quote what it says in there. You can do that. You can memorize those things and quote it too. I was taught from a little girl how to do that. But until I had that experience like Peter had with that life in me, they were just words that I didn't have to understand. I just remember one day saying to my grandmother, I want to be like Jesus because he did all these miracles and these wonderful things. And he helped all these people. And I was a helper. I'm still that heart of a helper. But little did I know what it took or the route or the journey that I would be taken on to get to that place where I was more like Jesus. So, this is going to be a kind of a long lesson, and I'm just basically laying the foundation today, and I hope you come back over the next week or so, the next couple of sessions, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But today, I want to drive home to you. I want to drive home to you that there is a part of you that's beyond the flesh and blood that is inside. I say that, it resides in this meat suit of ours, this flesh and blood that walks around, that knows truly who, what, and whose we are, knows really, truly what, from whence we come and from where we're going to go. That life in us, when that life in us leaves us, when that life left Teresa, when that life left Mark's father, when that life left your loved ones, your family members who's gone, when that life left that flesh, it went back to the tomb. It went back to the ground. It went back to the dust. It went back to this dimension, and it stays here in this dimension. But that life inside, it's continues on and on and on. That's the God piece. That is who Jesus, the Christ, the Anointed One, the Son of the living God, who is also Son of Man. That's whom he was speaking to. And I hope today that I was preaching to the choir and that you already know this. But I want it to sink so deep in you that you can tell the difference between what the world says about you and what the spirit within you says about who you are. And I want you to know, and I want you to understand, and without a doubt, get to this place where you know without an argument, without a doubt, without a shadow. And yeah, I don't have to prove it, but it will be proven in its time that I am one with God. That when you see me, minus this flesh meat suit, when you see me, when you hear me, when you watch me, you're watching God. When I see you, when I watch you, when I hear you, I'm watching God. I'm watching God unfold in us, in each one of us. We're not anywhere near all that we are meant to be or gonna be, but we are who we are. And as asleep as we might be, as unaware and as unconscious as we might be, There's going to come a time when you will wake up and you will remember who you are. I've been given that understanding, so I'm a lot more at peace about it, because I used to be anxious. But I wanted to understand about it. I keep telling them, but I don't know how to say it. I'm like, just take a breath, Jean, kick back. They came from above. They're gonna come back. They came from above to come here, just like you. They came for a purpose, for a reason, just like you. And there's gonna come a time when they're gonna hear my voice, and I'm gonna call them home, and they're gonna drop that meat suit or flesh and blood or whatever, and they're gonna eagerly return. How many folks do you know that's left here this morning that's coming back or eager to come back here? They say that, they tell us and they teach us that Jesus will return one day. I don't know about that. I'm still turning upside down on that one, because I don't know that why, maybe so, I don't know. I won't argue that one. But I believe that, as the word reminds us, and again, this is a word too, and it comes from, I'm going to share this one with you, then I'm going to stop. But this word says that Jesus again speaking to his, I think he's speaking to, let me see who's he speaking to. Let me say. Well, he's speaking to the scribes, because they're questioning who he is, and whatever, we just have to have proof, men have to have proof. We gotta have proof of everything. So they wanted Jesus to prove, and he said, and Jesus was pointing out to him, he says, I was here, I existed before. I existed before this time, this place, this body, this suit that this physical person that you're looking at. I already existed. I came from above. And the only way that anybody from here is going to return is they got to come from there. You go home. When we go home. It's the place from where if we say we're going to go home, it's from where we came from. Jesus said, I'm from above. And nobody that descends into this place is going to stay here. You're going to come back. You're going to go back to home. You're going to go home again. Do I descend? I decided, we were asked or given or whatever, but we took on the challenge or whatever to come here. We descended. If man descends, if you descended from heaven, from God, from King, from the higher one, from the kingdom, from that place, from Father, from source, then you're going to return to source. That's just how it is, that's just how everything is. Everything goes back to from where it came from. We existed before this. We came down here, inhabited this earth, inhabited this suit, to do what we do, having the experience that we're having. But there will come a time when the whistle will blow, if it may. I don't know if it'll be a whistle, but there will become a time that you will long for home, or home will call you, and you will eagerly go. Maybe, and eagerly, I'm going to say eagerly, once you realize who you are, you'll eagerly go. Some of us kind of fight it because we not quite sure about who we are. But when we get to know who we are, we won't have any worries. We'll be like Jesus, and we'll say, I'm finished. I'm done. Okay, it's time to go. All right, I'm ready. That's what's going to happen. That's who you are. I'm going to leave it at this morning, but I'm going to invite you back again next week. I want to talk a little bit more about home, that kingdom, the place where you came from. I want to talk a little bit about that and the connection that we have with that place, and why we get, I don't know I don't know if people come to recognize that there's a homesickness or a longing in them. They may not understand what it is, and because we get so distracted with the place that we're living in, or the world the situations that we're facing, that we tend to forget who we are, and we forget how to understand our feelings and our thoughts. But next week, I want to talk a little bit about that, not only the spirit, that God's self in us, but I also want to talk about the connection that we have with home, with the place from whence we come, and the place that eventually, at some point in eternity, I don't know when, I'm not God, I'm not that kind of, I don't have that, I don't have the full knowing. But I want to talk about the connection that we have with home. Talk a little bit about our purpose. This whole series, we're going to be talking about our purpose, not only who, what, and whose we are, but from whence we come, and talk a little bit about our purposes. And again, I'm gonna hopefully line you up with the word, the law, if you want to, or the written scriptures, if you want to. And I want to share that with you. I want to give you also just a little tiny bit of background of me. I'll probably expand on it a little bit. I'm one to say that we study and we understand that the Bible. I remember a couple of classes I took at Kennesaw on the Bible. But one of the things that hopefully we understand is that the Bible is imagery and symbolism. And being imagery and symbolism, we need to figure out how to understand it. And there's tons and tons of information about interpreting that understanding. And I'm only sharing what I understand, what I have received in my study and in my research and in my inquiring and in my asking and my curiosity. I'm sharing with you, again, what was given to me to give to you this morning and over the next couple of sessions. But you should get in there and look at and read and ask and be curious individually as yourself. Like Peter, there were 12 of them. There were 12 disciples. But Peter was the only one that heard, that received, that could hear and receive the word from God, Heavenly Father, the living God. The others were like, they went to school and got it. They read it in a book, in a storybook. Grandma told me. Get it for yourself. You ask, it's your curiosity, it's your mind, it's your imagination, it's your thoughts, they're your feelings, it's your perspective. You feed it. You get the hunger and you feed it. We're going to talk about a little bit more about that over the next few sessions. And again, I hope you come back and join me. But in the meantime, I hope that you study to show yourself, curious, study to show yourself hungry and wanting to know truly who you are. When we don't know who we are, and from whence we come, we're missing out on a lot. We're missing out on a lot. And we are the wisdom residing in us, that life in us, the breath, the breathing, the motivation, the mobility that we have in us is the wisdom and the power of God. And you can't separate the wisdom and the power of God from God. You got it. So I'm going to encourage you to feed it, to be curious. And again, I may be preaching to the choir, which is fine. We're still learning songs. We're still learning music. We're learning different instruments. So even if I'm preaching to you and somebody told me the other day, oh, I knew that. I knew that 30 years ago. Oh, you know what? I knew that almost 70 years ago. I heard that almost 70 years ago. But I'm hearing it in a different way, in a different light, and a different understanding from what grandma taught me, what my Bible school teachers taught me, what the preacher said and preached about. I'm receiving it on a much more personal level. And I encourage you to seek and do the same. I'm going to leave it at that morning. And I want to again remind you that there is indeed a king, royalty, queens in each one of us. Treat yourself with the respect, the love, and the pride, and the just honor that you are, and to treat others the same, because we are no more or no less than anyone else we see. And until next week, I'm going to say, God bless you, God loves you, and so do I, and continue to manifest to the best. I'm going to play a little bit more of Donald Lawrence, I believe it is, yes, and I'm going to say, until next week, manifest best, and God bless you.